So you thought I was done with seeding projects for the year, but no way. Got more to do here. And this one was supposed to be done in the spring, but we waited because the spring was just so cool and just never really warmed up until it got hot right away. So we decided not to do that. So fall, got all this stuff prepped here. They got all the dirt ready. He has full irrigation on this thing. It's about 1.5 acres. And we're just getting the seed down now, right after Labor Day. Looking forward to putting my Elite Turf Type Tall Fescue on here. I think it's gonna look really good once we get this thing grown in. So it's gonna be a process as usual. It won't look perfect right away, but you know me, we're gonna keep working at it until we get to the point that we need to be. So I'm excited about this one. So I'm back over here at this project today. I wanted to wait until we actually had some grass seed growing to come back and update you here on what's been going on. It's been about 3 weeks since we did this seeding, and I'm seeing a lot of great progress here. So it's exciting for not only me to see, but the homeowner to see as well after having a bare yard here for about almost a year. He waited until the optimal time for fall, even though a lot of people would probably say, well, why don't you just seed it as soon as you can, maybe even in the middle of the summer just to get something growing. But he wanted to wait until the optimal time of year, and it has really produced great results here. So let's go over a bit of what we did just quickly. This was just a bare ground seeding, so he came in and had everything graded the way that it should be, but there's quite a bit of slope here on this front yard in a few spots, and there's not a whole lot that can be done about that just because of the way the land lays. And he has the house here kind of up on top of all that stuff to make sure everything drains away from it. That posed just a slight challenge for us in terms of, you know, the slope on here and what we were going to do with that on a bare ground seeding. But we waited also until a time of year where we weren't seeing a lot of thunderstorms or anything in the forecast. It's a lot better to try to wait out those storms than it is to put your grass seed down just because it's a certain time of year and you see a bunch of storms in the forecast, especially when you have a slope. So he waited at the right time. He has irrigation on this whole thing, and so he's able to control the water now. It actually did rain quite a bit the day after that we seeded this. It was supposed to be a light rain that day, but it ended up being heavier than we thought. But I don't see a whole lot of washout here, so we actually got pretty lucky on that. This is the Knorr Elite Turf Type Tall Fescue that we put onto this yard. He wants to mow it probably 3-4 inches tall, so I recommended that he go with something like that. Also, it's going to do best here on this front section that's going to be in the full sun, and he has some back sections of the yard that are more of a shady situation, so blending those two together with the grass, it's going to do well in the shady situation, but also do well in the full sun situation is what he wanted. Next season, once it matures, I can't wait to see how this thing's going to look. But we did that seeding straight to the ground. We drug that in with a 4-wheeler, and then that was just a light drag to put that underneath the surface. Then he also put down a starter fertilizer with some mesotrione in it to try to prevent some weeds here, but I haven't seen a whole lot of weeds in this yard, to be honest. There are some foxtail here and there that's come up, but that's going to be an annual weed. All that can be taken care of next year with pre-emergent, so nothing to be concerned about with that. So overall, a great project here, a great start to how things are looking. Let's go take a look out into the yard, just a few spots that I want to show you and a few things that I wanted to talk about specifically that I'm seeing on this project right now and where we're at with it. So right here on this side, you can see where that blanket is, and then right next to it on this side right here, you can see there where there wasn't a blanket. So it definitely makes a huge difference, especially on slopes like this. Just a good example of how well those straw blankets do to hold things in place, to hold the moisture there, hold the seed there, and then right next to it on this side. Definitely still a pretty good start for the kind of slope that we have here, but looks a lot better with the blanket, so something to keep in mind. Same exact scenario here. You can see where this blanket is, and how much of a difference that made. There's nothing here. I'm really thinking that maybe there's some missing going on with the sprinkler over here. It kind of looks like that to me. There's a few spots over in this section that look similar where maybe it's not getting great water coverage, because it also looks pretty dried out. So something to just check on as you get going on this. Not that this can't be fixed whatsoever. There's no reason that that's going to be any major issue long term. It can be overseeded, but you can see such a huge difference where these blankets were on both sides of this area. Same thing right here. Overall, it looks really good. There's not a whole lot of washout. Just one little spot right here. We did get a fairly heavy rain after they put the seed down, but that's about all the washout that I see. So for the kind of slope that he's dealing with, this is a really good start. Something like an area is up here too by the house. If you have some of these thin areas, there's still quite a bit of seed down in here that's just sitting there, but it's up on the surface. So what I would do in a scenario like this is probably throw down another very light overseed on this, just to make sure that the seed that is laying there, it just might be all dried out and not going to be working for you very well. But I would put down just a small amount of seed, and then I usually put down a really light top dressing on here, a light material like a dusting of peat moss or a dusting of something that's not going to be too thick over that seed, and you should keep that watered for a few days and you should see really good progress on an area like this. I've also showed this before too, but now that you have good growth with these blankets, about now is when I'd start pulling this out of here. There's really no reason to let it just sit in there, because I've found that this netting doesn't break down very well, and he's got plenty of good growth here to where he doesn't need to hold this in there for erosion anymore. So that's what he's going to start doing, is pulling these blankets out and moving them to some of those areas that are thin. Sometimes there's still quite a bit of straw in here. You should be able to reuse it, and that's what he's going to do. So that's an update on this yard. I'm going to continue to come back periodically, just check things out, and next year we'll get him on a good fertilizer program, get him on some weed control program depending on what comes up here. But I think it's going to look really amazing once we get some stripes out here as a nice corner lot that looks down at the road. So people are going to be very impressed with this thing once it gets finished. Appreciate you watching today and looking at the updates on this thing. We'll see you next time.